Hello readers, I'm the Avid reader, and today I thought of ranking my 5 favorite authors. So I've read over 200 books in the past 4 years or so, but many of them have been by a few authors specifically. So these are my top 5. Number 5, you've got George Orwell, and one of the almost perfect books he's written is 1984, which is basically the best novel on totalitarianism. He also wrote a great novel, Animal Farm, which makes fun of communism and Stalinism. He's also written some other good books, such as Keep the Aspidistra Flying, which is about a guy who feels sorry about himself, walks around and wants to be rich, and drinks a lot. Another good book is Coming Up for Air, which is basically one guy who goes into nature, leaves his wife alone for a few days to enjoy himself. And we also get to see the build-up to war and jingoism in Britain. So number 5, George Orwell. Number 4 is Robert Harris, and Robert Harris writes historical fiction and a little bit of alternative history. One great standalone novel he's written is Munich, which basically chronicles the Munich conference through the eyes of a couple of aides. He also has written the great Cicero trilogy, which is about Cicero, the statesman in the late Roman Republic. So with the downfall of Cicero, you have the downfall of Rome. The middle chapter in this trilogy, Lustrum, is the best. You get to see Cicero at his best, and you also get to see him at his worst. So number 4, Robert Harris. Number 3 is Stephen King, and Stephen King has written several great novels and a couple of amazing ones. So The Shining is an amazing novel, and Misery is also an amazing novel. And the reason that Stephen King writes such great books is because he really knows how to delve into characters. He also includes some good horror in it. So one example of a great Stephen King book is Insomnia, which is both horror and fantasy and ties into the Dark Tower series. So this is better than the first 4 Dark Tower books I've read so far, so Insomnia is a great Stephen King book. He's also written a novel that makes your skin crawl called Pet Sematary. You feel horrible reading this for the right reasons. Another great book he's written is 11/22/63, which is Stephen King in alternative history and some great characters in this book. And you see someone going back in time to stop the Kennedy assassination. Very exciting. There's also Salem's Lot, which is another great horror novel by Stephen King. So you really get to see how horrifying vampires are in reality, that they should not be romanticized. So number 3, Stephen King. My number 2 favorite author is Michael Crichton. He's written many amazing books, and every other thing I've read by him so far has been great, at least. Amazing books that he's written include Sphere, which is the Deep Blue Sea, sci-fi. You've got Jurassic Park, which is dinosaurs brought back to life through some very interesting science fiction. An amazing read. Quite a few gruesome deaths in this novel, so this sci-fi thriller borders on horror. You've also got Michael Crichton's 2 controversial novels that are still amazing. So you got Disclosure, which delves into sexual harassment, turns the genders around. And you've also got State of Fear, which is a climate change conspiracy theory book, so it's quite interesting and quite a thrill ride with a lot of interesting statistics, shall I say. So number 2, Michael Crichton. And who is my favorite author? Harry Turtlelove. The author who I've read most books is Harry Turtlelove. I've read over 20 of his books, and he writes some great alternative history series. So Aliens Invade in World War II, he writes 8 good or great books about it. He makes Stalin president of the United States instead of Roosevelt in Joe Steele, and turns the United States basically into a banana republic. So an odd but good read. You've got racist South Africans in Guns of the South who travel back to the Civil War, bring Kalashnikovs to the Southerners. The South wins the Civil War. Then you have conflict between the South Africans and the less racist Southerners. So puts in a few interesting moral dilemmas. Got the Hot War trilogy, where Truman uses nukes in Korea. So you have a hot war between the Soviet Union and the United States, where you have both armies fighting and nuclear weapons. You have some very interesting characters in this book. You get perspectives from the Germans, from the Soviets, from the Americans, from the British, all of which are World War II veterans, so you understand their mentality. And of course, there's his Southern Victory series, which is the South winning the Civil War. And he wrote 11 volumes of this. This is an allegory to our timeline. Later in that book series, you have the United States joining the Central Powers in the Great War, and you have the United States establishing an empire later on in the American Empire trilogy, where you have the United States controlling Canada, they're allied with Germany, and the Confederate States, that's an allegory to Germany during the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. So a large part of the dark history of World War II and the 30s of what happened in Germany happens in the South. So it's a pretty well constructed allegory which ends in genocide. And Jake Featherson is a great villain. And if you read this book series, you'll understand why. With the aliens invading Earth, later on you have the Cold War between the aliens and the humans instead of the Americans and the Soviets. And eventually you have the almost only sci-fi book where you have the Americans who visit the alien planets. And the best work that Turtledove has written, I'd say, is his World War series, where you have humans and aliens, as it's a great study of human cultures. And the imperialism of the aliens is also very interesting. So my favorite author of all time is Harry Turtledove. So now you know my 5 favorite authors. Number 5, George Orwell. Number 4, Robert Harris. Number 3, Stephen King. Number 2, Michael Crichton. Number 1, Harry Turtledove. All of these authors have written several great books, which I recommend you to look into. Some of these authors have written some flops, but most of what they've written is at least good, often great, sometimes amazing. You want old-style fiction? Go to George Orwell. You want historical fiction? Go to Robert Harris. You want horror fantasy with great characters? Go to Stephen King. You want amazing sci-fi thrills? Go to Michael Crichton. And you want very big alternative history stories with many characters spanning long periods of time? Go to Harry Turtledove. I'm the Avid Reader, and I will see you readers next time.